Hey guys! Robert and Brian asked me to help you guys get ready for the fishing expo, specifically how to use face paint, how to feel more comfortable with it, what it's like. So I'll be taking you through what the expo will be like and how to use face paint in a video tutorial. So as we jump into learning about face painting, I just wanted to preview a couple general things. You'll be face painting at the Madison Fishing Expo, which most of you know, and I just really want to say it's okay to feel a little intimidated or nervous about the face painting experience. It's a lot of fun, but it's okay if you feel like you're not quite sure how to face paint, you've never done it before, that's okay. We've done this many years with PGT, and most students find it to be a really fun, exciting experience. It does get us into the Fishing Expo for free, so you get a chance to find out what the fishing community in Wisconsin is like. So it's a very different community than maybe some of you are used to. And it gets a chance for us to really represent Shabazz and get out in the community and do something that's kind of fun. So I just wanted to talk through some general expectations of what it'll be like when you're actually there, and then do some demonstrations that show you how to do face painting and talk through some of the do's and don'ts. What to expect when you go there. The first thing is it is in the Alliant Energy Center, for those who have not been there. We will not actually be in the actual expo. So you can see here's a picture of the actual expo. There's a ton of people. There are booths of all different types of things related to fishing, but we will be in the hallway that you can see the doors on the far left. We're in the hallway right outside. So it still will be busy, but it won't be as packed as being in the actual expo. So just be prepared for that. We will have a booth with tables in the hallway outside the actual expo. We'll be asked to paint mostly kids. It'll be really ages 1 to 10 traditionally. So age 1, you can imagine they're very little, they're not really able to communicate, so usually it'll be the parent sort of talking to you, but mostly it'll probably be ages 3 to 10. Typically. We do occasionally have some adults who just think it's kind of fun, and they typically want much more complicated face painting experiences, so that's where it's okay for you to reel in me or Brian or some of the better painters if you're intimidated to take on, say, a huge muskie jumping out of water. So just be prepared. Occasionally you will have to paint an adult. Unless you're uncomfortable, just let us know. The other thing is the subject matter of what you'll be painting. Typically when we think of face painting, we think of painting people as tigers or clowns, but because we're at a fishing expo, again, these are people who are really into fishing. So this is an example of our sheet that will provide people who come to give them some ideas, but you can see a hook is one that's really common, a fishing hook. A bobber is another one that we will paint a lot of. You definitely will also be painting fish. That will probably be the most common thing you'll paint. But you can see underneath there's also other things that kids really enjoy. Hearts, balloons, stars, rainbows. But most often you'll actually be painting things related to fishing. If someone does request a fish, this is also where this gets tricky. Fish people know their fish. So we have these handy cards, because what they'll typically say is, I want a walleye, and they want it to actually look similar to a walleye. So we will have these fish anatomy cards for you. Again, if someone requests a specific fish and you're a little bit intimidated, just work with who's there to make sure that they're able to get the fish that they want. A lot of us are pretty good at painting fish at this point from practicing many years, but I'll be showing you how to do it, so again, don't be intimidated, but people will actually ask for specific fish, and these cards are available to help you with that. The other thing is, what is face paint like? So there'll be 2 types of face paint you can use. One is on the left side. It's going to be just a classic palette of colors. You can mix your paint on a disposable plate if you want to make a certain color. But you can see there's a lot of colors. The ones on the right are the ones we've had forever. They're actually a nicer grade of paint. They're what you use for theater. And that one you have to actually mix the colors because they don't really come in a lot of colors. But these will be the 2 types of paints that you'll have for the actual face painting experience. I would compare face paint to, for those of you who have painted before, it's a cross between watercolor and acrylic. It's a little thicker than watercolor and it's a little thinner than acrylic. and typically it covers skin really nicely. So it only takes one coat to get a nice opaque color. But the other big thing about it is it's a type of paint that will not harm skin. So it's health rated to be able to go on skin and not make people sick. So it doesn't have chemicals that will affect the human body in a negative way. So the first thing I want to do is to take you through a practice just so you can see how face paint works. I'm going to give you some tips on maybe what will work better, so you just get a chance to work through it. My big goal for you guys today is to practice painting 3 of those things that you saw on the design sheet, 3 of the common requested items on either your hands or your arms. I would suggest do a hook, a bobber, and a fish, but if you feel intimidated by that, pick 3 that you think will work for you, and just get used to the paint. See how it feels, so you can get comfortable. So I wanted to show you guys just a quick demonstration of me using the face painting material so you can kind of see how it looks. I have a bunch of equipment kind of all set up. This is the same thing you'll want to do. I have my face paints all set to go. I'm using the older kind that I talked about. I have a palette, so this is just a plastic plate. I can use this to mix colors that I maybe don't have here. I have the primary colors, so those of you who have taken art with me, you know you can make pretty much any color with these guys. I also have white if I want to make a color lighter. Black's a really powerful color, so I don't have that one right now, but we definitely will have that for you. I have just standard multi-purpose brushes. We'll have these for you as well. And water. Now the key thing about face painting and water is a little water goes a long way. If your face paint gets too watery, it's going to drip down your subject and then your picture's not going to work. So just be aware of that. A little water goes a long way. Whenever I'm face painting, I'm going to get out our kind of sheet. This just helps people who are coming to us kind of collect their thoughts around what they want. For you guys, I'm going to recommend you pick 3 of these to practice because these will be the most common ones. But what I want to show you is if, say, someone requests a bobber, how you would even do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be working on my left arm here. I'm going to take my water and just loosen up the face paint to get it kind of ready. You can use your paper towel if you feel like it's not quite, or it's getting too watery, to get the extra water off. So I'm just spinning my paintbrush around, getting my stuff ready. I'm going to do just a classic bobber, a white and red bobber, and then I'm going to do a blue kind of string coming off of it. So when you face paint, what you want to do is just lay in big shapes first. So I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to paint the top of the bobber so that it's kind of a curve shape like that. I'll dry my brush up, get a little water, I'm going to go in and get my red, and I'm going to lay in that color too. Typically you just want to lay in big blocks of color, and any detail you can do after it's dried a little bit right on top. Face paint layers really, really nicely. So now I have my white and my red. I'm going to paint a layer on top here of the part that sticks out from the bobber. So again, I'm just layering it right on top. Wash my brush, put it on the paper towel to get the extra moisture off, because remember, too much water is kind of your enemy with face painting. And then I can take my brush, have a little fun with, say, a string coming off. So there we go. So I've got my bobber. If it doesn't pop enough on their skin, you could always outline it. That would be the last step, typically. Kind of go around to make sure it pops. Always feel free to add extra details too, so maybe I could add some little bubbles just to make it fun. Kids really kind of appreciate those extra little details. The next thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to paint a fish. This is probably the most common thing you'll paint, and it is a little bit trickier, but the same kind of theory applies. In between, you always want to use a paper towel and get the water off your brush, because remember, you only need very little amount of water to do face painting. And when you think about doing fish, you want to lay them into shapes. So I can see that the gill and then the tummy is just yellow, and then the top is kind of a yellowish green, and then there's these shapes for the fins. So So the fish cards come in super handy, especially when they're like, I want a bluegill, and you're like, I have no idea what that looks like. The fish cards are going to be your friend for that. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'll loosen up my color. For this one, I might need to make myself kind of a greenish, yellowish color for the top. And then I can start kind of working on my fish. So typically they are a football shape, so I'm going to do a curve shape up. His gill kind of comes down, and then the green body kind of goes backwards. So I'm just laying in that first part of the fish. So then I'm going to wash my brush in my water. Again, grab your paper towel, just pull that paint off, and then I'm going to go into my yellow, and I'm going to lay in the bottom part of the fish. So it's kind of like dividing it up into parts of color, like little pieces you're putting together. So I've kind of got my top and my bottom. I want to get that kind of underjaw of the fish, so just thinking about that a little bit. And then I'm going to lay in things like the fins. So I'm going to do some yellow kind of coming around here. His tail comes out a little bit. And I'm going to get the shape of the tail. He has kind of a curve shape up. And then he's got these cool spikies. So I'm going to put in spikies there. Okay. Now right now the fins are sort of fading into the belly a little bit. So I'm going to do a teeny bit of shading. Again, this is only if you want to get fancy. You do not have to do shading. But while it's wet, I'm going to pull a little bit of a red color into the belly, just to make it pop a little bit more. And add some details. Okay. So now that I've got kind of my basic shapes, this is where I'm going to want to go in and do some detail work. So for example, the fish has these cool kind of stripy patterns. So I'm going to use the top of my brush and I'm going to go straight up and down and just add those shapes in. I'm also going to think about adding details like the eye. If you feel a little intimidated about painting a circle, you can actually use the tip of your brush and just go straight down. And then you get a really nice little eye there. I can go in and add some details like stripes in the fin. Go ahead and do that. Make sure that I get the lips in there. Then I've got my fish, okay? Now you may want to add, again, those little details make it really fun. So you could add things like bubbles around it. Again, you can use the tip of the brush and make circles really easily. Those little details are super duper fun for kids. You could also make your fish being caught on a hook. That also is a good way to go.